Good morning, friends. We are back, Wizard of Oz. We are now on Chapter 4, The Road Through the Forest. So let's take a minute to talk about what's happened so far. There was the cyclone on the farm. We met Dorothy, we met Uncle Henry, we met Auntie Em, and Toto. So Dorothy gets swept away in a tornado, in a cyclone from Kansas. She lands in Oz, a land far away full of magical things and magical people. She's in Munchkin Land. Her house is landed on the Wicked Witch of the East, and she was given a mission, which is to go to the Emerald City, meet the Wizard of Oz, because he is the only one who can help her get home. In the movie, they're ruby slippers, but in the book, they're silver slippers. So she's given the silver slippers. They're magical, but she doesn't yet know what they do, but she's going to wear them. And on her way, she has met the Scarecrow. She helped him get down from his pole in the cornfield. And he said, "Do you think that the wizard would help me get a brain if he can help you get home?" And she says, "I don't see why not. You won't be any worse off than you are now," even if he says no. So what does that mean? That's really a fancy way of saying you have nothing to lose by trying. So that is something we should always keep in mind. Sometimes just trying is the best thing that you can do. And Miss Sarah will never ask you to do something that I don't already know you can do, right? So here we go, friends. The Road Through the Forest, Chapter 4. Let's look at our picture. After a few hours, the road began to be rough, and the walking grew so difficult that the Scarecrow often stumbled over the yellow bricks, which were very uneven. Sometimes they were broken or missing altogether, leaving holes that Toto jumped across and Dorothy walked around. As for the Scarecrow, having no brains, he walked straight ahead and stepped into the holes and fell full length onto the hard bricks. He never got hurt, and Dorothy would pick him up and set him on his feet again, while he joined her in laughing merrily at his own mishap. A mishap is a mistake or an error. The farms were not nearly so well cared for here as they were farther back. There were fewer houses and fewer fruit trees, and the farther they went, the more dismal and lonesome the country became. Dismal and lonesome. So lonesome means lonely, empty. Dismal is kind of a sad word. That means it looks like it's not a hopeful kind of place. It's not green, it's not pretty, it's not full of life. I think that was how they had described Kansas when she was there, where everything was gray and brown and no color. At noon, they sat down by the road near a little brook, and Dorothy opened her basket and took out some bread. She offered a piece to the Scarecrow, but he refused. "I'm never hungry," he said, "and it's a lucky thing I'm not. My mouth is only painted on, and I should cut a hole in it so that I could eat. The straw I'm stuffed with would come out, and that would spoil the shape of my head." Dorothy saw at once that this was true, and she only nodded and went on eating her bread. "Tell me something about yourself and the country you came from," asked the Scarecrow when she had finished her dinner. So she told him all about Kansas and how gray everything was there, how the cyclone had carried her and Toto to this weird land of Oz. The Scarecrow listened carefully, then said, "I cannot understand why you should wish to leave this beautiful country and go back to the dry, gray place you call Kansas." "This is because you have no brains," said Dorothy. "No matter how dreary and gray our homes are, we people of flesh and blood would rather live at home than any other place in the world, be it ever so beautiful. There is no place like home." The Scarecrow sighed. "Of course I cannot understand. If your heads were stuffed with straw like mine, you would probably all live in beautiful places. Then Kansas would have no people at all. It is fortunate for Kansas that you have brains." "Won't you tell me a story while we're resting?" Dorothy asked. The Scarecrow looked at her reproachfully and answered, "My life has been so short that I really know nothing whatsoever. I was only made the day before yesterday. What happened in the world before that is all unknown to me. Luckily, when the farmer made my head, one of the first things he did was to paint my ears so that I could hear what was going on. There was another Munchkin with him, and the first thing I heard was the farmer saying, 'How do you like those ears?' 'Well, they aren't straight,' answered the other farmer. 'Never mind. The ears are the same,' which was true enough. 'Now I'll make his eyes,' said the other farmer. So he painted my right eye, and soon it was finished. I found myself looking at him and everything around me with a great deal of curiosity, for this was my first glimpse of the world. 'I think I'll make the other one a little bit bigger,' said the farmer. When the second eye was done, I could see much better than before. Then he made my nose and my mouth, but I did not speak, because at that time I didn't know what my mouth was for. I had the fun of watching them make my body and my arms and my legs, and when they fastened on my head at last, I felt very proud, for I thought I was just as good as anyone now. 'This fellow will scare the crows fast enough,' said the farmer. 'He looks just like a man.' 'Why, he is a man,' said the other farmer, and I quite agreed with him. The farmer carried me under his arm to the cornfield and set me up on a tall stick where you found me. He and his friend walked away and left me alone." So here are Dorothy and the Scarecrow and Toto sitting by the brook, which is a small stream. She's having her snack, and they're telling each other stories. I did not like to be deserted in this way. Deserted means to be left alone, left behind. So I tried to walk after them, but my feet could not touch the ground, and I was forced to stay on that pole. It was a lonely life to lead, for I had nothing to think of, having been made such a little while before. So he's kind of like a newborn. He's discovering the world. He doesn't really know anything. He's like a toddler trying to figure out how to walk and how all his arms and legs work. I wonder if that farmer thought to fool me in this clumsy manner, said the crows. Any crow could see that you are just stuffed with straw. Then the crow hopped down to my feet and ate all the corn he wanted. The other birds, seeing that he was not harmed by my presence, came to eat the corn too, and in a short time there was a great flock of crows around me. Oh, friends, now the Scarecrow is telling Dorothy that he feels like he's not that great at being a scarecrow because he didn't really scare the crows, and that was his one job. After the crows had gone, I thought this over and decided that I would try to get some brains. By good luck, you came along and pulled me off the stake. I hope the Oz will give you some brains, said Dorothy, since you seem anxious to have them. Anxious is a word that means you're a little bit worried about something. Oh, yes, I am worried, said the Scarecrow. It's such an uncomfortable feeling to know that you don't know much. Well, said the girl, let us go, and she handed the basket to the Scarecrow. There were no fences at all by the roadside now, and the land was rough and unfilled. Toward evening, they came to a great forest where the trees grew so big and close together that their branches met over the yellow brick road. Friends, have you ever driven with Mom and Dad down a road where all the trees meet at the top and it feels like you're in a tunnel of branches and trees? If this road goes in, it must come out, said the Scarecrow. As the Emerald City is at the other end of this road, we must go wherever it leads us. Anyone knows that, said Dorothy, Certainly, that's why I know it. If brains were required to figure it out, I should never have said it. So he's saying anyone with a brain or no brain would know that because it's really simple thought. After an hour or so, the light faded and they found themselves stumbling along in the darkness. Dorothy could not see at all, but Toto could, for some dogs see very well in the dark. She took hold of the Scarecrow's arm and managed to get along fairly well. If you see a house or any place we can pass the night, you must tell me, for it is very uncomfortable walking around in the dark. Soon after, the Scarecrow stopped. I see a little cottage to the right of us, built of twigs and branches. Shall we go there? I see it. Yes, indeed, answered the child, and I am all tired out. So the Scarecrow led her through the trees until they reached the cottage. Dorothy entered and found a bed of dried leaves in one corner. She laid down the Toto beside her and fell into a sound sleep. The Scarecrow, who was never tired, stood in a corner and waited patiently until morning came. And there's Toto, little black dog. Our next chapter, friends, is chapter 5, The Rescue of the Tin Woodman. Ooh, we're going to read that one next. All right, friends, I would love to hear any questions or thoughts you have about the story. I think that we have learned some new vocabulary words. I think that words like dreary and dismal are words that we could learn opposites for. So dreary and dismal, the opposites would be full of life, bright, vivid. I'm trying to think of some other words. Do you think of some other words, friends, that mean full of life and colorful, bright? I would love to hear your thoughts. See you next time, friends.